of both. This is meant to completely disempower the population, and it is now in the offing that they're trying to scrap presidential elections to ensure that members of parliament who are handpicked by the regime are the ones that elect president. So the role of the National Unity Platform first is to keep the hope alive, to keep galvanizing the population, to bring people together. And one very important role of the National Unity Platform is to look at itself not just as a political party. Now this is rather confusing. We started out as a loose political movement called the People Power Movement. And we've said it many times that we are not a political party. We are a movement. We are the People Power Movement. We just have a political party, our electoral platform. But the People Power Movement encompasses all Ugandans. One thing that we are confident about is the people of Uganda, from the east to the west, from the north to the south and central, are all for change. And this was evident in the recently concluded elections. So we are to keep the hope alive, to guide our people, and most importantly, to keep them non-violent. I find myself in a challenging situation, leading a generation that is hungry and angry and wants to free themselves by any means necessary, and rightly so. But because I am aware that for the last 40 years, General Museveni has spent all our money not to revamp the healthcare system or the education system or to develop the country or to improve the infrastructure, but to stockpile weapons, to fortify himself as the master of violence. Now, we don't want to give it to him. That is why we have decided to use non-violence. Because when we use non-violence, we render his weapons impotent. So we are using non-violence in order to deny him opportunity to mow us down. Well, I know that even when we have been non-violent all this time, when you arrest political activists, they are paraded in the military court. We are referred to as terrorists. We are referred to as agents of the West and all that. But we maintain that line because we don't want to go violent. We've studied, history has shown us that violence only breeds more violence. Violence creates this vicious circle of not only violence but entitlement. And our desire is to overthrow the guns, is to disempower violence and bring forth a generation of reason. That is our role at the National Unity Platform.
Thank you very much. His Excellency. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are opening up the floor for questions. Please introduce yourself and then be sure to make your questions precise, because I'm so sure that there's many of those. Yeah.
Thank you for having.
Let's take two. And it can be the conversation, actually. We can maintain this,
Thank you for having us. And Bobi, we look up to you.
Thank you.
As a young man. My name is Kimani from Kenya. A lot of East African youth are courageous right now. They're educated and they're organizing to take over and their rightful space into leadership. If you could talk to a young person in Uganda, in Kenya, in East Africa, what would you tell them to be able to turn their frustration into a long-term change instead of emotional reaction online.
Thank you. If I could talk to a young man in Uganda, in Kenya, in East Africa, in Africa. But before I talk to that young man in Kenya and in Uganda, why don't I talk to that young man here, right now? That young man that is asking me that question, that young man is Kenyan. You, the Africans that are here, man, we look up to you so much. You are the intellectuals that we have. Every student, I mean, you are in the University of Michigan. These are the noble universities where the founders of our countries went. The fathers of independence, the Kwame Nkrumahs of this world, the Milton Obotes of this world. When they were your age, they were here thinking about Africa. And indeed, when they came back home, they brought those skills and ideas. So, I want to speak to you first and to let you know that you are our hope. You are the intellectuals that we have, you know. So it is supposed to be part of our call. Leaders, you have read all this. You know what is wrong and what is right. You know what works and what does not work. You are our Nyereres. You are our Kenyatas, you are our Jomos, you are our Obotes, etc., etc. So, get involved. Don't look at matters of back home as matters to be sorted by those that are home, and then you return home. That is what has kept us where we are today. For you guys to be here, so much has been invested back home. So we need you. Get involved in the politics of our country. Gladly, now the world is even more connected. You can lead from where you are. Now to the young people back home. You are the future. There's a song that I did. It says, we are the country, we are the future, we are the change we badly need. We are the youngest population in the world, we stand a chance. We are the leaders of the future, and the future is today. So the future is today. Take charge of your future. The people that gave us independence were in their late 20s and early or mid 30s. The old ones among them were in their late 30s when they changed home. And majority of our people were old. Today, we are young people. Back home, I'm an old man at 44. You know? So, how can young countries be governed by men and women in their 80s? How can the future of young people be determined by the people whose future is already behind them? So, get involved, take charge, because in any case, you are stuck in Kenya, you are stuck in Uganda, you are stuck in Africa. These guys are going to die. I'm sorry to say that, but it's the truth. You know, they are on their way out. So it is important for us to determine our future. Franz Fanon wrote and said, every generation out of deep reflection must realize its course and choose to betray it or pursue it. I have no doubt that you people, you Africans, you young Africans, here and back home, already know your cause. Now it's up to you to betray it by your silence or to pursue it by getting involved in any way. I'm playing my little role with my little knowledge as a humble artist from the ghetto. You young people out there know much more. You the educated people. You the knowledgeable people. Rise to the occasion and take charge of your nations. Take charge of your future. Thank you.
Let's take like 3 questions at a time, then I will respond and we'll keep going until we are out of time.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Please allow me to acknowledge the progress you've led thus far in your journey. In this coming 5 years, Uganda is likely going to experience some kind of like political turning shift. There is a possibility that the constitution may be changed to allow parliamentarians to vote for the presidency than the public election or the public vote. Thinking about that, it can be an opportunity for change-seeking forces if they do think that they have, a shot through parliament into the executive. On the other hand, it can also be seen as one of the ways that the incumbent regime has continued to make sure it remains in power. How is the National Unity Platform, thinking about approaching that perspective or that possible political shift? Let alone maybe the National Unity Platform, but how should Ugandans think about approaching such a possibility? Charles Kadlam, I'm a global health researcher here at the University of Michigan, and of course Ugandan.
We can get another question and he will answer after the second.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity and thanks to the President for honoring the invitation from Michigan. Given that Museveni has deliberately embedded loyalty within Uganda's state institutions, most visibly through military appointments of his son, Muhoozi, who in my opinion shouldn't be in that office. So how does this present a challenge to the potential transition, and how does this approach to public appointments inform the strategy that leads us to a new Uganda?
Shall I answer those two as we? Thank you very much. The first question was about the known efforts by General Museveni to deny the people of Uganda opportunity to elect their leaders, so he can have his way in Parliament. And was asking what are the plans of the National Unity Platform to counter that. I've said it again and again that it's not only about the NUP. The National Unity Platform is a party that I lead. Look where I am, running for my life, running from an unhinged 52-year-old spoiled son of a dictator who tweets and gives orders on X to his soldiers that I should be delivered to him, dead or alive, that I should be castrated. And these are no jokes. He threatens and delivers to his threats. You saw when he abducted my bodyguard and tortured him, shaved his beard and stripped him naked, and posted pictures of him, telling the nation that Eddie is in his basement being told Lunyakore is mother tongue. Just yesterday, and these are not tweets of years or months ago, just yesterday, if you go to X and look for Muhoozi Kainerugaba, that is the son of the Ugandan president, who he gifted with the rank of military general and appointed chief of defense forces. That is where we are. The National Unity Platform is the moral platform. It can only go so far. I've mentioned that a day before yesterday, another sickening law was passed to the shock of all Ugandans. I mean, all moral voices gave their opinion. Religious leaders, traditional leaders, even the governor of Bank of Uganda said this is going to affect the economy, because Uganda is a country that relies largely on the money that comes from outside. The diaspora remits up to $2 billion US annually. But because the project under General Museveni, the project is not Uganda, the project is Museveni and his family. The agenda is not to lead the country to a better place. The agenda is to keep power within the family at all costs. So, that being the way it ceases to be an issue of the National Unity Platform, the party that I lead. It's an issue of all Ugandans. And like I said, NUP is our electoral platform. This is a party, by the way, that we introduced only 1 month to the 2021 election. Why? Because all other opposition political parties had been paid and ordered by the regime to keep away from us, because we were seen as too radical and uncompromising, and our agenda was, and still is, removing the dictatorship and beginning a new democratic journey for our country, Uganda. That being the way it becomes, as it has always been, a matter of the people of Uganda as a whole. When this silly law was being passed the day before yesterday, the National Unity Platform, under the able leadership of Right Honorable Joel Swenyonyi, put up a moral case, because that's what we could do. But the people of Uganda had to stand firm, as they should, and as I'm confident will. I'll give you an example of the fight against slavery. While the moral white people were in Congress trying to make a case against slavery and asserting that slavery is immoral, the likes of Harriet Tubman on the plantation had to also put an effort and communicate to all and sundry that slavery is not only immoral, but it is dangerous. Therefore, while the NUP is making a political moral case, the people of Uganda must rise and free their country. They're like two wings of a bird. One cannot flap alone, it has to work in concert. I hope I communicate to you, my brother. And also to my brother, whose accent sounds like he comes from the ghetto. Thank you for that question. I can tell when I hear somebody speak and the 1, 2, 3 slang, they say, oh, he's not only from Uganda, he's from the ghetto. I'm so proud to find you in the University of Michigan and keep representing your brother. How does the Moozi project pose a challenge to the transition? Is that what you were asking?
Not necessarily, but the approach to appointing people in most of these offices, but not just people, but people who represent themselves interests and Moozi's interests, not basically for Uganda. People.
What is your question? You said that's a statement.
Yeah. So now, how does that present a challenge to the transition, and how does it inform the approach we take to remove the dictator?
Thank you very much. Now the two transitions. That in itself is actually a transition from Museveni to his son, who is effectively in charge. He recently appointed one of his friends, head of media center and government spokesperson. He had his birthday and he ordered the police, the military, border riders, taxi riders to show up and ran in celebration of his birthday. And indeed, when you go to his tweets, he tweeted and said, "How come I did not see the former military commanders? Are you undermining me? Why didn't you show up to run and celebrate my birthday?" So that is a transition from Museveni to his son. It's a transition from a pseudo-democracy, from a facade of democracy, to a reign of terror. You saw that when he distinguished himself in terror abductions and extrajudicial killings through this election, abducting people, killing people, torturing people, his father, in response, awarded him with a medal. And in his statement, Museveni's statement, he thanked him for dealing with troublemakers during the election period. This is the same person that threatened to raid Kenya, and the following day, he was promoted to 5-star general. This is the same person that after he tweeted the naked pictures of my bodyguard under torture, 2 days later, he was made Chief of Defense Forces. And he was made Chief of Defense Forces. Unlike other Chiefs of Defense Forces in the past, before he was made Chief of Defense Forces, Museveni signed an instrument that was to the effect that the powers of the Commander-in-Chief were transferred to the Chief of Defense Forces. 2 weeks later, he made his own son Chief of Defense Forces. So that is, by and large, a transition in itself. Is it the transition that Ugandans want? No. Is it the transition that we are going to stop? Yes. The transition that we want is a transition from absolute rule to democracy, from family rule to democratic rule. And we are going to achieve that by the grace of God.
Thank you very much. So Ugandans are some of the most prolific in terms of the use of social media. And I guess that is why the president's son tweets a lot. And if you go on social media, you see a lot of Ugandans using TikTok, Instagram, as well as Twitter or X to communicate ideas. So I want to know, to what extent have you and your group also been using these platforms to communicate with or to mobilize at the grassroots level?
Thank you very much. Yeah, Ugandans are using social media, and largely because it is the remaining medium of communication for Ugandans. Like all dictatorships, the media is completely usurped. Most, if not all, radio stations are controlled by the regime. Those that dared to challenge the regime have been either closed or completely incapacitated. Majority of the radio presenters are owned by military chiefs, regime operatives, ministers, name it. And others that used to speak out don't. For example, I am not hosted on any radio or TV station in Uganda. Never mind that my voice is the most heard and my cute face is the most seen. Why? Thanks to social media. Social media has always been our way out. And the regime has not taken this lightly. This started when I rose to the occasion and became member of parliament. The regime could not stop this message from going out. So what the regime did is that they introduced a tax on social media. Yes, the first in the world, social media tax. I and many of my friends went to prison for protesting against the social media tax. No tax on the internet. You could buy your MBs, but you had to pay a tax to use Facebook or Twitter or WhatsApp or that. That did not work because the people of Uganda said, okay, we shall pay that tax, but we shall communicate. They started finding ways of going around it. The next step, and that was during the 2021 election, Facebook was the only way we were communicating. That was before the introduction of TikTok and others. Facebook was the most popular social media in Uganda. It was banned. So 6 years ago, Facebook is banned in Uganda. Why? Because it annoys General Museveni. That did not work either. Because, like I told you, Ugandans are largely young people, and with age comes with creativity. So Ugandans went around that ban, and we use VPN, and it works. So if you ever get your Facebook banned here, because it can, VPN did a good job for us. So when that, happened, General Museveni, using another member of parliament that poses to be an opposition member of parliament, introduced a law called the Computer Misuse Act. And under this law, many TikTokers, many Twips, and many bloggers are rotting in jail for communicating what the regime does not like. Never mind the fact that Museveni's son himself, who is the chief of defense forces, pictures people's wives and posts them naked. Pictures citizens and posts them naked. On a daily, he's posting unhinged stuff. But as you know, the law in Uganda is nothing more than the paper on which it's written. So yeah, while there are those challenges, one thing that I'm proud to say is that Ugandans are unrelenting. We are always creating. We are always dynamic. And we always go around these blockages like we have done to date. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a couple hands. Oh, yeah, somebody already has a microphone. Please go on.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
And then,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay, thank you. My name is Eloise Salif. As an African, a Liberian, I'm from Liberia, West Africa. So when you talk about political violence, electoral violence, dictatorship, it's something I've experienced. When you talk about passion of the young people getting involved to seize the opportunity and get the movement for themselves to play a role in growing the state, I played that role in my younger years, growing up in Liberia. My parents didn't even know I was active in my country, advocating for change. One of my first protests